Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. This is hopefully going to be a shorter video. I know some of you are like, but I love your longer videos. But the reality is I have about 20 minutes on this card, unedited, and I have dinner on the stove. But as I was cooking dinner, this thought just kept coming into me, and I've had it before, and I think I figured out a way to say it. And so I'm sitting down and I'm filming. And we might have kids running through and husband looking at me like, you never film on Saturday. And this is why. Okay, so, but let's just jump right in. No introduction, no nothing. We're going to talk Charlotte Mason today. Charlotte Mason, okay. I think the danger of people saying, well, I love Charlotte Mason, but I'm not a purist. And I do this all the time because I don't want people to assume that everything doesn't look like this cookie cutter Charlotte Mason morning time and all of the Feast of Ideas and yada 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 yada. And so I put that caveat there. I love Charlotte Mason, I want to follow Charlotte Mason, but I'm not a purist. And I think we've just gotten to this point where we have to throw that out so that people won't judge us. But you know what? The more I'm thinking about this, and the more that I'm contemplating on this, and the more that I think in terms of a variety of like illustrations. And so the more I'm thinking about this, the more I'm thinking of like, you know, can you imagine Christians going around saying, well, I am a Christian, but I'm not a purist. You know, I don't fast 3 times a week. I don't sit outside my tent once a month until I am clean. I mean, can you imagine to suddenly have this cookie cutter type of thing? And I want to go into that with that. As I was even thinking about this further, I kept going back to those biblical ideas. It's a Christian thing, so everything to me gets connected biblically. I kept thinking, you know, there, especially in the biblical doctrine, and I'm sorry, that's not the best way. Within the Bible, we have an instruction guide for our lives, right? Okay, you go to the essence, and then you got to see how those essence were played out during this specific ancient times. And the Bible is a living word, which means it's always relevant in its core essence. So God gave instructions that the Israelites were to follow. The actual instructions, like stoning somebody if they were a false prophet, or having women sleep outside the congregation when they were having their monthly, or all of these rituals that the priests had to do before they offered a sacrifice to the God, those are no longer something that we hold and have to perform in our Christian lives. But what makes biblical truth still relevant today is we have to follow what God has told us to do, and then we find those instructions within the New Testament. Blah, 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 blah. If you're a Christian, you understand where I'm going. Charlotte Mason, we may not have or get to do all of the things that she recommended within her PENU, the school that she had founded. Why? Because we are mothers within our home, you know, trying to live this out. If we were trying to start a Charlotte Mason school, and this was our occupation, our profession, then we might want to follow things a little bit more. But we are mothers within the home trying our darndest not only to meet their intellectual needs, their emotional needs, and their spiritual needs. We're also trying to meet all of those physical needs, which is a full-time job right there. I'm getting a little, okay, get off the high horse there, dear. Okay. So, let's give ourselves a little bit grace, and let's take out that caveat of, I'm not a Charlotte Mason purist. Let's just say, I like her essence. I like her core values. which were to raise up well thought out citizens. I recently asked on Facebook, what do you want your children to graduate knowing? And this was a question both for public school parents and homeschool parents. I wanted both of them to answer. Because you know what? When everybody answered, there was almost a distinction in every answer. For many that were Christians, it was so that they would know Jesus, love Jesus, and follow Jesus. It didn't have anything to do with be the highest in math. It didn't have anything to do with be able to argue your point clearly. Actually, I don't even remember if that was ever, or argue your point to the hilt. I don't think that was even one answer. The common thread between the public school and the homeschool children was to love Jesus, serve and follow him with all their heart, and to know why they believe. The other point that everybody wanted to know, whether public school or homeschooled, was to learn how to learn. And I think that's what Charlotte Mason wanted those children to have, was to bring out that desire for knowledge within the children. So throw a textbook at them if they are analytical and they need that concrete structure that they don't maybe understand within the pages of a more classic novel, okay? I actually happen to know of a boy that did not like novels, and his parents had kept pushing novels. They had kept pushing the classics, you know, maybe because he is so formally structured type of boy, maybe the classics would be better, and he hated reading. They did a lot of what I consider twaddle, which was a lot of the Diary of a Wimpy Kid, Big Nate, is that what it is? And then the Minecraft, and then like all these graphic novels. They had tried everything, and he just did not like reading. They ended up finding like this nonfiction, I want to say it was like a David McCullough book, but I'm not positive. But it just was this nonfiction full of facts and how mechanically things worked, and they just had it there for something. It wasn't bought for him. But that boy picked it up and he read it and he loved it, and he's like, I want more of these. And they found those for him. They found these the manuals, like how to fix cars. He inhaled those books. I think he's my age now. So it probably wasn't Diary of a Wimpy Kid, except those were out when I was a kid. Oh, man, that's just my age. But Goosebumps, I think, was in one. Anyway, getting off track. I don't remember. I don't twaddle. I don't read them. I don't buy them. I don't really know what's out there. Anyway, for him, that was a living book. That made his connection. That gave him the knowledge to want to learn more. To him, that was a living idea. And so, you know, we try to say, okay, Charlotte Mason Purist, we can't give them tests. We can't give them, can you stir the dinner, please? It's so dangerous to start putting everybody into this box that has to fit, when it's kind of, again, going back to that biblical illustration of like Peter saying, oh, I'm not touching anything unclean. Lord, I know where I stand. And God's like, don't call anything unclean that I have called clean. And it was like, don't put everything in these little boxes. If it's okay, do it. Now, I know you can argue with me like what exactly that means. It meant, you know, the Gentiles, and it's not just for the Jews. I know, I get it, okay. But we're going to go with this, okay? So, Charlotte Mason Purist, if that means that you are doing what you are called to do, which is to feed and nurture your children, whether that is food on the table or a Saxon math book that maybe isn't the best living book out there on the planet, for your kid, you are meeting that need. Do not weep and wail and rent your hair because it has not followed Charlotte Mason to the precise detail. I'm trying to see how much time do I have. Ooh, we're gonna cut it close. Okay. We're starting school, and I have fallen into this trap so many times I cannot tell you. Over here, the stack over there is where I sit and enjoy, have a cup of coffee, and I've got 3 or 4 Charlotte Mason books and 2 notebooks, a whole bunch of highlighters, a whole bunch of page flags, because I'm going to get it right this year. I'm going to get it right. Let's just focus on what we want our children to end up being. For me, it's them learning how to learn, right? So what do I need to do to foster that? Kids, I need to make dinner. Come help me, please. Because at one point, you're going to have to make food for somebody else. My one son, my brother made a deal with my one son. He was learning about investing. He was reading something. And my brother said, you know what, if you read out of The Millionaire Next Door or The Millionaire Mind, I always mesh those two, but if you read one of those and you write me a paper about it, then I will give you your first investment, and you can have like this 1 ounce silver thing, okay? And that's exactly what my son did. My son read this book that is written, what, for college kids? For adults. He read it and he wrote my brother an excellent letter. Like, my brother took a picture to it and sent it to me and said, wow, like, this is a concise, my son is concise, this is a concise and well-written letter, or this is a concise and well-written letter, and yeah, he's doing good. By the way, we also learned that this one son that I keep pulling my hair out about trying to get school is half blind in one eye. No wonder the guy's having so much trouble. Anyway, focus. What I'm trying to get at, mothers, is, it sounds cliche, give yourself some grace. We all need a little bit of this right now, especially this year, I think. I think you need to go back and realize what the end goal is for education. Years ago, I made a video. It's my most popular Charlotte Mason video out there. It's got a ton of views, I think like 20,000. That one, I said that my main goal was to raise good members of society, productive members of society. I have not gone to the point where I've completely retracted that. But I can't tell you the angst I had in my heart when I was at the pool the other day. And there's a special needs girl there, and I was with my friend and her daughter's special needs. And she's talking about how she's just trying to get her to go to school so that she is with other children. And she's like, we know that she'll never be a good member of society. A contributing member of society. She had to tell that to the school people. And why it stung so hard, and why my heart fell to my feet, is that the value we put on people, how well they are members and contributors of society? How about how compassionate they are, how loving they are, how much of a servant's heart they have for others? What happened to all of those values that we hold tight? And I think hearing that, it was never ever for me about raising up children that I could hold up on a platform and say, look, they were homeschooled. Look how well they're doing. That has never been my goal. It's always something I think every homeschool parent wants, you know, a little bit of in their heart. Maybe not. Maybe that's just me. That's never been my goal. There's always that little bit of me that just wants it so bad. And I think it's because I am not a brilliant academic person. I'm actually very terrible at academics, which is, again, really hard to admit as a homeschooling mom. It's like, but some of us aren't wired that way. But I can make meals, and I've been able to help women in our communities with the domestic skills that they lack. And especially during this time when you couldn't just go and order something out to eat. Suddenly there was a big need for this. My time. Ooh, okay. So this whole video was made mainly to address that I'm not a Charlotte Mason purist. Whatever that means. You know, she had her philosophy, she had these core things, and then it was like expounded on it. And it's kind of, you know, this, like I said, a similar way in how God has presented the core values, the core moral right and wrong. And then it gives us all this whole book of examples, and those examples fit that time period. For example, that one, women shouldn't speak up in the church. If you have the context behind that, the Jewish synagogue would have men on one side and women on the other, and somebody, you know, would be teaching. Well, the women on the one side would shout to their husband, "Can you explain what he means by that?" And there was this disruption and disorder and this chaos within the church. And when you get the whole context of that chapter, or the whole letter, excuse me, forget the chapter, the whole context of that letter, suddenly certain things make sense. Certain things make sense when you understand the context of the whole don't eat, take the Lord's Supper in error. I was trying to think erroneously, but I don't think I'm even saying that right. But don't take the Lord's Supper in error. Again, once you know the whole context of rich versus poor, the rich were eating and having a great and wonderful time, and the poor was too poor to eat, and so they get to the Lord's Supper and they're just hungry. You get this whole context, and suddenly what God is saying makes more sense and is more clear cut. In a similar way with Charlotte Mason, she has this whole thing, again, for the schools, for the teacher. This is what we're going to do. You have more than one teacher for all these kids. We are one teacher for 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 13 students. So things aren't going to look the same as they did. Maybe some can manage it, and that is the best they can do. And it's interesting to me how we say, oh, you need to see behind the lens, but nobody really shows behind the lens. And as a content creator, I totally get that. Like, I am not going to share bad attitudes. Like, my goal is not to shame my kids. So you're never going to see that. But I think in trying to present something that is goodness, beauty, and truth, or whatever those 3 words are that everybody's talking about, we have neglected to see that there is the harder days. We don't illustrate those. Why? They're not uplifting. They're the drudgery that we all go through. And I think that's a lot of why so many people are exhausted right now, is that everybody's going through that drudgery. I mean, social media is full of, we are done with the COVID-19 epidemic, pandemic, we need to get on with our lives. Like, everybody's done with it. We don't need to keep saying behind the scenes with that. With Charlotte Mason, you've got to understand, Victoria, England, yes. Does that mean we cancel everything? No. What were her main core values? Teach the kid good habits. Let's keep focusing on those. Those are things that we need to do every day. What would be the best way to do it? Well, she says work on 1 habit for 6 weeks and keep grounding that, and then add another one. She said education is an atmosphere, discipline, and a life. And you look at your daily life and you figure out how to incorporate that throughout your educational journey. Like, those are the core values that we need to be focusing on. Whether or not this is a good living book, or this is we forgot folk study and we need to add it, and I forgot to add a good hymn study, and oh my goodness, the composer, we've had the same one for 3 years now. Like, I think we're getting bogged down by, oh, we have to be purist, we have to stick with those, that we're missing the core essence of it. And I'm making this video just as much for myself. Like I said, these thoughts are going through my head as I'm making dinner that's probably burning right now. And I just knew that now was the time to make this video. But speaking of burning dinner, we need to end this. And I hope this is encouraging somebody out there. I really, really do. And I'll see you next time. But Mama's gotta go.